Hi there. I'd like to encourage you today around the topic of faith. Now, there is like a really long video that I could make doing kind of the whole backstory and the foundation for this whole argument, but I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm going to go to the conclusion, and then we'll go back and talk a little bit. But first of all, faith for most people tends to be defined as believing or being sure that something is true that they can't see, or it's not tangible, they can't prove it. They're just sure that something is true. They really, really believe it, and they call that faith. Well, what if faith truly, by definition, is more than belief? What if belief is half of faith? I would say that it is. In the book of James, and even in the book of Hebrews, which is Hebrews chapter 11, which is like the great chapter on faith, the definition of faith is not only believing that something is true, even though you can't physically or use your senses to prove its existence, but it's acting on what that thing is that you believe to be true. And the whole book of Hebrews, the whole chapter 11 of Hebrews, is story after story after story, account after account of people who were demonstrating faith. And it always involved two pieces. One, God spoke to these people, and two, they acted on it. The two things in combination are what faith is. When God reveals truth, when God reveals something, yeah, we have a deep belief that it's true, even though we may not be able to prove it. But it's the acting on what God says, what he reveals, that is faith. The belief plus action equals faith. Acting on revelation is faith. Jesus said that if we had faith, even as small as a mustard seed, we could move mountains. The real trick is, do we believe and do we trust that God speaks to us? And when he does, do we act on it? Well, I don't know about you, but if you sense that God is speaking to you, and he speaks in a variety of ways, most notably through his word, Jesus is the word, the eternal word, but if he does speak to you, if you believe that God is drawing you, he's nudging you, he's directing you, he's speaking by his Spirit to you, faith is taking what he's saying and then acting on it. There's a verse, Hebrews 12:25, that says, "See to it that you do not refuse him who speaks." Him who speaks is another term or name for God. Kind of like Dances with Wolves or Stands with a Fist from the great movie Dances with Wolves. God is called him who speaks. He is a God who continues to speak. He spoke through creation. He speaks now through all the things that have been made. He speaks through his word. He speaks by his Spirit. He's a God who longs to communicate and does communicate, and he communicates to you and me. Faith is listening to God and then acting on what it is that he tells us. Today, I'd like to encourage you to be listening for God's voice, believing what he says to you, and proving it by acting and obeying whatever it is that he reveals to you.